Welcome, everyone, to the April 13th, 2023 meeting of the Burlington Conservation Commission. This meeting and hearings of the Conservation Commission will be held in person at the location noted above. Members of the public are welcome to attend the in-person meeting. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and/or participation is being provided as a courtesy to the public, the meeting/hearing will not be suspended or terminated if technical problems interrupt the virtual broadcast unless otherwise required by law. Members of the public with particular interest in any specific item on this agenda should probably make plans for in-person attendance versus virtual attendance accordingly, if possible. All right, so first item after calling the business to order is to call the roll call. Okay, so why don't we do that? When I call your name, obviously say aye or present. Bill Boyven.
Here.
Okay. Ed LaTurco.
Present.
Okay. Rob Sheehan.
Present.
Indra Deb.
Here.
Okay. And Kent Moffett.
Here.
Okay. Okay, are we expecting Emily tonight?
No,
Okay, so Emily Cotwell is absent.
Emily Cotwell is absent, and,
Is she on there?
no, that's me.
Oh.
In fact, I think she's not going to be with us at all anymore.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Sorry,
That tied up,
everybody. Sorry, what?
Is she that tied up?
She is pretty tied up. She realized she had a lot of evening meetings. She's got a lot of commitments.
Right.
And I think she just really wanted to do a really good job with this, and she felt like it was more of a time commitment than she really had to do it justice.
That's too bad. She was.
All right, and the chair, Larry Cohen, for the record, is present.
Sorry, Larry.
That's all right. I can make a cameo appearance. All right, next, we have the approval of minutes for our March 23rd, 2023. Okay, do we have any issues to discuss on this lengthy document?
No. Mr. Chairman, just so you know, I did look at the video for last month.
And you're eligible to vote on anything being continued?
Correct.
All right. All right, so could I have a motion to approve the meetings of March 23rd?
So moved, Rob?
Who's seconding?
Second, Bill.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That is 6-0-0. Okay. All right. Next, we have the minutes of the Wetlands Resiliency Subcommittee, which met on March 27th at 4 p.m. We have those minutes. Is there any discussion on these?
Nope.
All right, could I have a motion to approve the Wetland Resiliency Subcommittee meeting of March 27th?
So move.
Okay, Ed, right?
Right.
Second?
Second, Kent.
All right, again, all those in favor? 1, 2, 3. Okay, the vote is 6-0-0. Okay. Okay, next. Okay. Okay, Mercury Road. There we go. All right.
I think we have 3 things that are not going to be heard tonight.
Right. Yes, that's a good, Mr. Boyven just reminded me, we have some things that are not going to be heard tonight, in case anyone is here for that. Item 5 is the continued public hearing notice of intent for 78 Mountain Road. They have requested a continuance. Could I have a motion to continue the hearing for 78 Mountain Road, DEP file number 122-687, to our next meeting on April 27th?
So moved. Bill.
Second?
Second, Indra.
All those in favor? 6-0-0. The next thing this reminds me of, there is a continued public hearing on number 6, the request for amendment to order of conditions wetland bylaw. It's for the district. and it's DEP file number 122-537. Is there a motion, again, to continue that hearing until April 27, 2023?
So moved, Ed.
Second?
Second, Kent.
All in favor? Same vote, 6-0-0. Item number 7 is to a continued public hearing, notice of intent for 1200 and 1700 District Ave, which is the district. It's to construct 2 new lab buildings and a parking garage and make improvements to landscape and utilities. It's DEP file number 122-686. Could I have a motion, continue that hearing until April 27th?
So moved, Bill.
Second?
Second, Indra.
All those in favor? 6-0-0 was the vote, unanimous. And that's it. I do notice when we get to number 6, there is an extension permit that needs to be signed, it says?
Yeah, you already voted on it, but we have the signature sheet here
All
tonight.
right, so we'll go to that when we get there.
Yep.
All right. All right. We're back under 4A. Notice is hereby given, the Town of Burlington Conservation Commission will hold a public meeting during which time we will act upon a request for determination of applicability filed by Burlington Parks and Recreation for the proposed installation of canine grass within the riverfront area in 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetative wetlands and stream bank at the dog park located at 70 Mill Street, which is Rohannes Park. After we hear the summary of it and discuss it, we'll thereafter issue a determination. The application is being heard under Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and Burlington Bylaw Article 14, and a copy of the application is available by writing to conservation@burlington.org. Okay, so is there someone here for that, or? Yes, there is.
Over here?
Yep,
Go right
please.
over here, the guest of honor seat. All right, so even though we know who you are, you probably want to
Sure.
introduce yourselves and what your role is, and the floor will be yours.
Thank you. Brendan Egan, Director of Parks and Recreation here in Burlington. Thank you for having me tonight. We are looking to make some improvements to the dog park. We're into going on our 5th year, and we're looking to install canine grass at the front section of the dog park. It's the exact same product that is in the back corner of the dog park. We're having an issue with, as the dogs get excited and come to greet whoever's coming in, they run up and they stop real quick, and it pushes all the stone dust out of the park, pushes it onto the engraved bricks that are in the entranceway. So we're looking to clean that up and add a surface that won't push out of the park. So we're looking about 1,200 square feet in the front section of the active dog park, the left-hand side.
Got it. Okay. Eileen, do you have some comments on this one regarding how close it is to the wetlands and so forth?
Well, we're just showing it up on the screen as Brendan explained. It's a pretty small area. It is within the inner riparian to Millbrook. But it's also within the existing dog park, so it's just basically replacing the stone dust that's there with this canine grass. A very small trench will be dug, is my understanding, to put in a curb to attach this, which is kind of like a carpet. So it's just exchanging one surface for another. Obviously, it's impervious, but I don't have any issue with I don't have any concerns at all about this change. It's a very minor change, even though it's quite close to the.
All right, let's see if anyone has any comments or questions. Anybody on the left? Comments or questions?
No, I think it's a good improvement. My wife and I purchased one of those bricks, and it's a little disappointing when you go and you can't read it because it's covered with dust, so this will actually make sense for that application. Plus, you're right, when the dogs come, when you bring a dog in, like 8 dogs come rushing up to say hi,
So
so.
you can't put a sign up, only trained dogs or
That's
something?
right. Stay back behind this line. It doesn't work. It does not work, believe me. So, yeah, this is a good improvement.
All right, anybody else? Yeah, Rudra?
It is a good improvement. How much area we are talking here? How much area?
1,210 square feet.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Ken, anything?
I'm with it.
I agree with Bill. I think it's a good improvement.
All right. All right, how about Rob, anything?
What, is there any infill that goes under it, or is it just going on the existing?
So it will be the existing stone dust that's under it. The only movement of any earth will be to create a trench where we'll put a cement curb that the carpet attaches to. And then that'll be just put inside the dog park into the, replenish the stone dust that's been moved out. It'll be graded and the carpet will go right over it.
Okay, Ed?
Just curious, are there different kinds of canine grass?
So this is a brand. This is the one that is in the backside of the park that we know is successful, and they call it canine grass because of the weave on the back is wider, so it allows dogs who go to the bathroom on it to seep through quicker, and rather than sitting on the surface. So, and allows water to wash through as well faster.
All right, I have no questions, you just answered the question I was going to ask.
Okay.
Thanks, Ed. You bet. Okay, is there anyone in the audience or online that has a question about installing canine grass? No. Okay. All right, so we have a draft document here that is for a few conditions that are pretty minimal. We'll review them and then vote. Okay, so,
Okay, Brendan does have a copy of this, so if he has any issues, he'll no doubt speak up in a few minutes. So, plan references, he used one of the construction plans for the dog park with a scale markup showing the grass section. He proposed to replace part of the stone dust path with the dog park, within the dog park, with a 1,210-ish square foot area to be covered with canine grass. It'll be attached to a new curb around the perimeter of this new section. The work would be within the 200-foot riverfront area of Sawmill Brook. I said Millbrook, sorry. And the 100-foot buffer zone to bank and bordering vegetated wetland. The curbed area would be approximately 55 feet from the stream at its closest point, but entirely within the fenced dog park. This work is only for the decision as we described tonight. There should be no changes of grade in the property. Sediment barriers are not required at this time. It's a pretty small job. How long will it take? It's just an afternoon?
No more than a week for everything.
Okay. There should be no stockpiling of materials within 50 feet of the stream, so just keep it a little further away. No tracking of sediments onto public roadways shall be allowed, and if that happens, just clean it off. And as usual, keep all the lawn clippings and other vegetated materials out of the vegetated wetlands or the streams, and the commission or their designees may stop by just to check on proceedings.
all right, Brendan, do you have any issues with any of this?
I do not. The contractor that will be doing the work is the same one that built the park and
Right.
understands all the rules and conditions that will be put on.
Yeah, this is not that extensive anyway.
No, not at all.
All right, any questions on the conditions at all? Anybody have anything they want to add? Hearing none, could I have a motion to issue a negative conditional determination for the canine grass addition to the dog park at 70 Mill Street, which is Rohannes Park, under Burlington Bylaw, Article 14, and the State Wetlands Protection Act?
So moved, Indra.
Second?
Second, Rob?
All those in favor? 6-0-0. Unanimous? You're all set.
Thank you very much.
Town's done a great job with that.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. We still get calls from communities across the state looking to come see the park and stuff, so, and I hope people are enjoying it.
You really need to come by more often. We don't see you very often.
Yeah.
Well, I may be back for something else at the
Nice
dog
to see
park.
you, Brendan.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you too. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. Okay, next, item 4B. Okay. All right. Notice is hereby given that the Town of Burlington Conservation Commission will hold a public meeting, during which time we have another request for determination of applicability filed by Ranjit Patel for proposed landscaping activity within the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetative wetlands. It's located at 11 Marjorie Road in Burlington. After we hear and discuss it, we'll thereafter issue a determination. The applications being heard under Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, which is the Wetlands Protection Act, and Burlington Bylaw, Article 14. A copy of the application is available by emailing conservation@burlington.org. Is Mr. Patel, here he is, there he is. Have a seat, make yourself comfortable. Before you, if you want to say anything, you're welcome to do that, but you should introduce yourself and state where you live, which is this address.
Sure. Hello, my name is Ranjit Patil. I recently moved like 2 months ago to Burlington, 3 months ago now, and I'm looking to get some work done around the house. And earlier we had a discussion around trees that we had removed without the knowledge of the whole process. So now just wanted to submit the information and seek guidance on how I move forward on this.
All right. Okay, well, welcome to Burlington again. Okay. So Eileen, would you like to make some comments on this one? This is a case where we've had some inadvertent tree cutting and
Sure. So Mr. Patel was in with us a few weeks ago. We were alerted that some trees are being taken down on his property. It turns out he was completely unaware there were wetlands in the back there. There's also a stream at the back. He came in and spoke to you, I think, you were in, right? Yeah,
I
we
was
spoke to-
virtual. Yep.
On virtual. But he has spoken to you at a meeting, and you asked him to come up with a plan of what he might do, how to restore the area. So I'm just showing you, this is what it looks now that the snow is gone. John went out to visit with Ranjit, and they determined that the approximate wetland line is, I'm sorry, I didn't think to show you had actually moved the flags. The flags go from about here to this tree and then
from where,
over the, sorry, do you see where this flag is right here?
which picture you on?
The left.
Oh, I'm sorry, you can't really see my, let me zoom in a bit more.
You can, yeah, you can also, at some point, I think you can change the size, I found out you can change the size of the cursor, so it might show up better.
I usually do, and I haven't, but
It doesn't work.
it's not great on WebEx, it turns out. So anyway, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Right here in the front, which I'll change it in a minute when I've got time, the flags are actually going to run that way. I will change the color of this cursor in a minute. So that's the approximate wetland line, and that's a pretty conservative line that he and John Keeley agreed with. So what Ranjit would like to do is to build a patio in the back and a play set and a walkway in the back. So what you guys need to discuss tonight is what you might do about either a restoration or replacement of some of the trees,
Right.
perhaps. Let me find his drawing.
Okay.
Sorry, I took it away again, Ed. Yeah, I know you're looking for it.
I like the drawing.
Oh, thank you. It's kind of homemade.
Garden Planner is the software, I think it says, it's interesting.
Yeah, I think he made a
Plug
good
stuff
effort
in and move it
to
around, it's great, yeah.
to make it scaled, I thought. Okay, so this was the proposal. Just make this a little bigger too. This is the rock wall at the bottom, approximately, where he and John had more or less agreed that the wetland line began, and he wants to put the patio the patio up here, I think, behind the house. So can you tell me, what's this brown
A sand pit.
sand pit for the kids, and he wants to put in a vegetable garden as well?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I guess in this particular circumstance, we should note that no trees, I believe, were cut within the wetland. Is that true?
We do not think that any trees were cut within the wetlands. He definitely did a clear up. He cleared out some brush. It was apparent that there were, let me just scroll down here a little bit. There was a bunch of downed wood that was stacked on the bank. He may have stacked it, but it all came from the backyard.
So this is like before I bought the house. So
Oh,
that's how-
it
that's
wasn't
how
even him
was.
that did it,
Yeah.
but anyway, all of this
And I think
material.
at the site, you said you'd be willing to clear that up.
Yeah.
So it didn't look like there were any significant sized trees that were cut in the wetland.
And as, Mr. Rangi, how many trees are you proposing to plant or vegetation?
You mean in the wetlands or in the?
Well, in the yard.
So we haven't quite decided yet, but I'm happy to kind of
Okay.
follow the guidance.
Eileen, is there anything in the stuff he submitted that shows any number of trees or bushes or anything?
No, I don't think he had a plan.
Yeah, I didn't
So
have
the
a plan
drawing,
for the.
the drawing, the trees in the drawing are existing.
Yeah,
This is after they were cut down, this is what's left.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we did not cut anything beyond the stone wall that was like a big tree as such.
All right, so what we have to decide here is essentially, what is it we were going to ask Mr. Rangi to plant and where?
Right,
Okay,
and-
and we
and-
should put some specification on it so it's at least a reasonable caliper 6 inches above the ground.
And whether you're going to require a restoration area behind the wetland, but that's up to you.
Well,
How many trees are cut?
right, good question.
How many stumps are there? I think I forgot to count when I was out there.
Like about 11.
Yeah, we
11.
talked about this the last time.
Yeah, but like front yard and somewhat in the backyard.
And how many in the backyard?
5.
All right, okay. I think what we have to decide besides where is the number of trees, the typical replacement we oftentimes go for is 2 for every 1, because some of them don't survive. And so, I don't know if this size yard calls for 10 trees or not, but you folks need to discuss that. You also need to discuss whether we want anything planted in the wetland. Eileen, is that your recommendation on this?
I think it would be a good idea if, the trees could be planted in the wetland, and you could propose a mixture.
It strikes me, even though no trees were cut in the wetland, that planting some towards the back there actually enhances the viability of the wetland, because it's a very open area. So we'd, anything, we'd be doing an enhancement if we decided to plant some trees in the wetland, over what was there originally. So, I guess we should go around the room and see what you're thinking. So, Rob, do you have any questions or comments on this?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit like, you know, sometimes on some sites, there'll be like maybe a tree was cut down, but then there's obviously some other like small saplings or smaller trees in the area. And this one looks like there's not, I mean, you know, it's still not quite spring yet, but I do think having some, I mean, just like comparatively looking at some of the, like into some of the neighbors' yards with, you know, that they have quite a bit of shade, I think, covering that sort of the back area along the stream. And so I think maybe some trees or some things put in that would have some shade would sort of help the area recover a little bit over time.
All right, Ed, anything, comments on this one?
Like you see in the right-hand picture, you know, I think along the stream, it's not only trees, I think there might be a consideration for some shrubs to go along, put some greenery along that edge of that brook. Because when I walked over there inward, coming back towards the house, it was kind of a little muddy over there. So, I mean, some trees at that level coming across might be a better area to consider. Other than that, you know, 5 trees, 6 trees, 7 trees, I think the number's good for what you want to do.
Okay, Bill,
The rock wall, is that the limit of the wetland or the limit of the 20-foot estimate?
That is the conservative wetland line that John
Wetland
and
line.
Ranjit came up with. It's probably a few feet, realistically, the wetland line might be a few feet behind that, but it's around about there.
Okay, but it's
But it also saves him, if we agree to this, it saves him from hiring someone to do a more.
Sorry, that's the way it was. I should have explained that, yeah.
Yes. Well, I agree with some number of 5 or 6 trees would be appropriate in that area if they're the type of tree that's going to get large and provide shade, as has been mentioned, and a few native shrubs of winterberries or something.
Understory might be a good idea too,
Would be a
right?
good idea to help restore a natural environment in there.
All right. Indra?
Eileen, how big those trees were? Those 5 trees approximately?
That's a good question. I'm thinking they were mostly in the region of sort of 8 or 10 inch diameter. Is that
10
what you
inch, oh.
remember?
Yeah, nothing was big.
Nothing was
There no
massive, but
trees.
they were substantial trees, but not massive.
Well, it's okay with me if there's some native shrubs with some trees.
Shrubs and trees maybe in the wetland or in the buffer as well. You guys need to chat about that.
Right.
I think in the wetland is
In the
appropriate.
wetland, right.
Because the rest of it is pretty much already disturbed, and we'd be protecting the wetland.
Just to
as best we
protect the
can.
wetland,
Yeah.
just to protect it.
Okay, Kent?
No, I mean, just looking at it, it looks like you didn't even take that, like, it looks like a lot of it was clear cutting before you bought the house, right? Like you took down 5, like, based on the,
Yeah.
so it's like, it looks like the vast majority is done before even you, so, but yeah, I think I agree with Rob, like, I think, like, I mean, not to pass the buck here, but I don't think you did most of the, like, that was done prior, so,
Well, I don't think they were necessarily cut, but I think that it was very hard to tell, and there
Oh.
weren't that many trees in the wetland.
yeah. No, but I'm saying, like, further out, it looks like there might have been other trees and, like, within the yard itself, that before he had the property, that could have been cut down. Like, if he only took down 5 in the back, like, was there other trees there?
There were several trees around like the property line that were leaning on neighbor's house. So
Yeah.
that was like the prompt for us to
Right,
like,
big.
we showed up and they're like, you gotta cut the trees.
Yeah.
Like, okay. And that's kind of like
So
how it
you
went.
cut 5, right?
No.
back.
So we, in the back, yeah, we cut 5.
Yeah. No, I think I agree with Rob, though. I think having additional trees and shrubs along will help, like, with shade and, help to create a barrier in between, so I think that's a good idea.
All right, my opinion is that that wetland would benefit from having some trees. And I think 2 should be along the stream, 2 should be in the wetland, and 2 can be in the buffer zone beyond the wetland line. That would be my suggestion. Does anyone agree with that? And then any shrubs beyond that if they want it.
Yeah, if those trees are the type that will get to be a significant tree, then that would be a nice distribution, yeah.
Yeah, and you'd have to help these folks pick the right trees, because wetlands that do particularly well in wetlands are not the same that do well in an upland. So the 2 that might go in an upland buffer are not, they don't do as well in wet areas.
100%. Are you thinking any shrubs?
It's,
I think along that river, I think you gotta dress it up too.
I think he can dress it up whichever way he would like and propose a number of shrubs if he wants some additional shrubs. beyond
Maybe
that.
closer to the stream and in the wetland?
Right.
Maybe you can help him, probably.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
You can-
Yep.
Okay, so, and as far as the specification on the size of the tree, it should be, what are we using, Eileen? 1.5 inches of caliper, 6 inches up?
We didn't specify it in here, but I can write that in.
Usually, yeah, about 6 inches up, usually it's 1.5 inch caliper, something like that. And we should also have, if the
Sorry,
commission, if the
are you,
commission,
do you mean at breast height? Is that what you mean?
yeah, what?
At deep, what do you mean 6 inches?
Above the ground.
If when you're just planting saplings, you don't measure at breast height, because the trees aren't even breast height sometimes, so you're
Oh.
talking 6 inches off the ground
Okay.
at that point.
And then the other thing we should have
I
is,
think we should go for slightly bigger than tiny, though.
well, yeah, I mean, you tell me
This guy came just.
what you think it should be. I came up with 1.5 inches,
I know
but
that.
that's somewhat typical. Do you think it should
How
be?
tall is a tree that's 1.5 inches?
Usually it's 4 feet.
4 feet?
Okay, yeah, no shorter than 4 feet is probably fine.
Yeah, if you say that, I think that would be appropriate. That's a typical tree that you plant.
You don't need some demarcation, like, maybe that's overkill, but
I think we hadn't really, you hadn't really finished your discussion. Are you okay with all the rest of the work in the buffer zone, and do you need any sort of
Any
demarcation
demarcation.
or shrubs or anything? Are you
shrubs
okay with?
or rocks or something.
Well, are you,
There is a partial rock wall
Okay.
there, it kind of does act as a demarcation.
are you thinking of enhancing the rock wall to extend it a little bit so it matches the line?
Yeah, that's what I was
So
thinking.
why don't we require him to do it, because he just agreed?
I think I'll need it anyways.
In other words,
to-
I don't think anything, nothing different than what you have, but I was suggesting you continue the rock wall in the same fashion, what is it, less than a foot high or something, and just sort of
Just make it a more,
make it more defined all the way,
More
that
defined line.
follows the line that has been agreed to. How does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds
Yeah,
good.
and it would look nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's visual, and it would also something that would discourage mowing past that line.
Yeah.
That's the thing you want to
makes
make
sense.
sure whether you or a contractor is doing the mowing, that it's clear not to mow beyond that line.
Andrew, you want it to look nice?
Huh?
You want it to look nice?
Always.
You can get rocks.
Unless they let you in back, you'll never know.
You can get rocks from in my backyard, like we redid a pool, and like there's a ton of rocks. So you probably, if you're just gonna do a rock wall, you can probably talk to a landscaper to come in and get like easily access to. So it wouldn't be like, probably you could get it at no cost, because a lot of times they're just looking to dump rocks from other jobs.
Yeah.
So.
People are trying to get rid
Okay,
of rocks.
and to the commission, should we have a 2-year that, if it should survive at least 2 years, otherwise it should be replaced?
Yes.
2 growing seasons, it's like, what is it, May 1st to October 31st? You have to go through 2 growing seasons, and if it doesn't make it through 2 growing seasons, you really need to replace it.
Okay.
Can we have him call for an inspection at the end of 2 years?
we can ask for that. This is a determination.
Okay.
So,
No.
it's not like a CO certificate of occupancy.
Well, why don't we put that in there and see if he remembers to call?
Right, okay.
Settle an item.
After
Okay.
2 seasons, all right, when I read through, we'll have to pop in a few things that were, spacers where I'll just put in this,
All right.
these words.
All right. Okay, so anything else? Anybody want anything else in there?
Nope.
Nope. All right, so you want to review it? It's kind of just a repetition of what we just talked about.
What we can.
Is
and
there
we
anyone
can-
here for 11 Marjorie? Anybody has a comment? No. All right. All right.
Okay, so in this case, the plan reference was the scale sketch that Ranjit produced himself, showing the approximate location of the patio garden beds and stone wall at the approximate wetland line. The applicant proposed to grind, we forgot to talk about the grinding of stumps in the buffer zone. You're okay with that too, right?
Are we
I mean, we
okay
didn't
with?
specify it, sorry.
Oh, yeah. You want to grind the stumps in the buffer zone?
Yeah, I mean, like on the other side of the stone wall, not on the, not in the wetlands.
Is everyone okay with that?
I think I'll be okay with that since they're
You're
outside the
okay?
buffer.
That's okay. I didn't hear anything, so.
Okay, there was nothing against that, okay. Loam and seed approximately 11,000 square feet, replace the existing walkway, add a walkway around the house, install a patio, play area and vegetable beds. The work was located within the 100-foot buffer zone of a bordering vegetated wetland and stream bank. It's just highlighted because I only added that in earlier because we forgot to mention the stream. Located at the rear of the property, it's not a regulatory stream, so it's only got a 100-foot buffer to bank. Some of the vegetation cutting prompting the enforcement action was within BVW. The closest part of the proposed work was at the boundary of the BVW. This was in response to an enforcement letter as tree cutting had occurred. Several trees were cut in the buffer zone, some within the 20-foot no disturb. Smaller vegetation was also cut within the wetland. The commission did not formally approve the exact boundaries, but agreed of the wetland resource areas, but agreed upon a conservative approximation of the boundary. The owner was given the choice of using the commission's boundary or hiring his own wetland scientist. He opted to use the commission's wetland line. I put the word waiver in there because you might want to, if you're not requiring something in the 20-foot, you might want to vote a waiver. So you're proposing to vote a negative determination, and the conditions would be, for Ranjit, the work is only as described above. He would put in erosion controls, that would be 9-inch straw wattles or compost tubes. Do you want me to make that bigger? Sorry. Which would go between the work area and the house. No stockpiling of soil or other materials within 50 feet of the wetland. No tracking of sediments onto roadways shall be allowed, and sweep it if it happens. And here we're saying the applicant shall plant, Larry said 6 trees, and I can also just say
2 along the bank.
2 and 2 and 2 was just what
Two
you said.
is what I said.
And I'll just put the
I'm
words
open to
in.
change if anybody wants to change it. I don't,
And
some shrubs
and
too.
maybe
and some shrubs
saying like
at his
4
discretion.
shrubs or 5, a few shrubs,
That's
some
fine.
shrubs. Shrubs close to the stream or in the wetland. Oh, sorry, I put that weird. And shrubs in BVW. I'll make it look nicer
2 of
tomorrow.
those trees would be in the no disturb zone.
Yeah, I just wrote 2, 2, 2 there for myself to remember, because that's the way you said it.
That's
2
the
near
way-
the stream,
that's
2
way
in the
I
wetland,
said
2
it.
in the buffer. Trees shall be native non-cultivar species and shall be pre-approved by the Conservation Department prior to purchase. Do you want me to put something there about the size, or are you okay with just the pre-approval by the department covering that?
I would put it just minimum 1.5-inch caliper, 6 inches above the ground,
Yep.
and 4 feet high minimum. And you can, they can ask you, you have discretion also if he comes to you and says, these are 3 3/4 high. I mean,
Yep. And shall be pre-approved. Got it. I
Right.
said 1.5 caliper, but I meant 1.
Was this a jurisdictional stream?
No, it was not.
It is not, okay.
A no disturb area, I think you seem to have agreed that you're not requiring a no disturb area, but you would like him to put,
2 trees in it,
beef up the stone wall a little bit.
right.
Yes. Route
sort
of
of-
demarcation.
Okay, so we're changing this part to just say, the stone wall shall be enhanced.
Enhanced to document the line that was agreed upon in the field.
Good.
I would, Mr. Ranjit, I assume before you start moving rocks around, I would suggest, ask the staff to come out and mark the line, so just in case they come out and John says, that's not what I approved.
Sure,
I mean,
understood.
how many times do you want to keep moving rocks?
Well, I think that we're happy to do that. I think we're okay with the line that he did change the line today, and he sent us some photographs.
Okay, that's great.
Stone wall shall be enhanced. There should be no filling or grading on the property beyond what is required in the approved work. Do not dump any sediment or lawn clippings or anything into the stream or into the wetlands. No pesticides, herbicides, or fungicides should be used within the wetlands or within 100 feet of wetlands unless it is, fertilizer may be a slow-release, phosphorus-free fertilizer. And we, which usually means me, may just check on this just to inspect that that's, your contractor knows what he's doing. Okay?
Okay, so there is 11 relatively standard conditions, and it essentially means, when the commission approves this, which they likely will, it means if you follow these 11 conditions, it means the commission thinks there is not going to be any strong likelihood of any issues with it. That's what it means. These are very standard things,
Okay.
okay?
Just number 5, make sure that's clear, the caliper, it's 1.5 inch, right?
Instead of 1/5? Yep. I would have got it tomorrow.
I know.
I would have caught it, 1.5 inch caliper.
Value
I'll fix the wording
I'm
to
looking
make
at
it a
this.
little nicer. Trees shall be native, non-cultivar minimum, blah, 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 and shall be pre-approved by the Conservation Department prior to purchase. Oh, John put that in, and I like this.
Put what in?
We're gonna start specifying that they should check with the Conservation Department prior to purchase. rather than when it's in the ground, because that's too late. You know, he can, if he's in, I mean, Mahoney's isn't the place to buy it, but if he's in a plant shop and he says, well, does this work? You know, you can send us a picture of the label, and if it's a cultivar, we'll probably say, can you look for something else?
There's also, you probably do have a list of
We-
plants that do well in wetlands.
We do.
And plants that do well in areas not so wet. And you want to make sure you get which ones are which,
Sure.
because otherwise they just, and the plant may fail and you have to replant. It's no good. All right,
I had one thing, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Are we dealing at all, that tree that was put down from your neighbor and back and across the stream, that was his doing? What happens to that? It's partially into his property.
It's not obstructing the stream.
if it was obstructing the stream, then we'd have to do
Well,
something.
It looks like a bridge, so it doesn't really affect the stream itself.
Yeah, so it's probably.
If,
I mean, where he's cleaning up, that's my
I
concern.
think if you want it removed, you could go talk to your neighbor and said, the commission wouldn't mind if you cleaned this up, if
Okay.
it's your tree that fell,
All right.
see how that flies.
It's a big tree.
Well, he's the one that cut it down. Okay. All right.
I'm just trying to think, and traditionally, if somebody was, let's say it was Mr. Patel's property and his tree, and he cut it down, and it fell in the wetlands, would we ask them to remove it from the wetlands, or would we normally just have them leave it there?
Normally, leaving a tree in the wetlands is not an issue unless it blocks a stream or something
Right.
like that.
So I don't think we should require that to be removed.
Oh, we're not requiring it.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think we're requiring, but he can go if he wants it removed, I suppose he could.
if,
that's
if
still
any
probably work with the
resident,
wetlands.
including Mr. Patel, finds that there are trees that are blocking the flow of water, they can contact the town, and it's quite likely the DPW will help them with that.
This is not that case.
Okay. All right, so we're not requiring anything on the tree. All right, so
Thank you.
are we all set? And could I have a motion to issue a negative determination of applicability for 11 Marjorie Road under Burlington Bylaw, Article 14 in the State Wetlands Protection Act?
So move.
Second?
Second, Bill.
All in favor? 600. You're all set.
Thank you.
If you have any questions, don't hesitate to call the office.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, next, item 4C, notice is hereby given that the Conservation Commission will hold a public meeting during which time we have a request for determination of applicability. It's filed by Michelle Eastman for proposed tree clearing and landscaping activity within the 100-foot buffer zone of bordering vegetative wetlands at 13 Alsine Lane in Burlington. After we hear the discussion, we will therefore issue a determination. The application's being heard under Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, which is the Wetlands Protection Act, and Burlington Bylaw, Article 14. And a copy of this application is available by writing to conservation@burlington.org. You're welcome to come up to the guest of honor seat. And it follows what you've already seen. You state your name, you state where you live, and then the person having the minutes has that for the minutes.
Okay.
And then you get to talk, and then we talk.
Michelle Eastman, at 13 Alsine Lane. We just moved there a little over, just under a year and a half ago. Living there, we have 2 kids, and with a trampoline and a soccer net, there isn't much room left for anything else for us to enjoy that space. So we're hoping to add more yardage to the back.
Sure.
And unfortunately, that means taking down some trees.
And that means coming and talking to us.
Yes,
Sorry about that.
that's okay.
All right. Eileen, would you describe the area, how close any resource area is, and also maybe your opinion on the health of the trees that are there, the mix of trees that are there?
Okay, so, my pictures aren't, The pictures in this one aren't so great. So she had Mary Trudeau out who marked the wetland. Those trees are marked with pink tape. You can just about see one here. So Michelle and her husband then marked off 20 feet from that line, and that's what the orange flags are.
Right.
So they're proposing to take down, I think, all or most of the trees between those flags and her house.
Right.
The existing yard is pretty small, I agree. I didn't measure exactly how far the house was from the wetlands, but maybe it was, 60 feet or something?
Yeah, that's what I would guess.
So I guess she's proposing to increase the yard by something in the region of 30 or 40 feet, 30 feet?
I'm not even
something like
sure.
that. I didn't think to actually measure it at the time, which is substantial. To be honest, I didn't get a good look at all of the trees that we're proposing. I know that you had a good look yourself, or at least a look yourself, Larry. I mean, my suggestion might be that she, depending on what you guys discuss, obviously, that you might have her get an arborist to take a look at them and to see what they say.
I
So
don't-
I will defer to your discussion,
Well-
however.
Well, we'll see if they also, it depends on whether you want to spend the money on arborists too. I mean, let me tell the commission that my characterization of the trees, there is, especially if you weren't able to make it to the site visit, there were, how many total trees are you proposing to take? Was it 26?
Yes.
Yeah, 26. Out of the 26, I would say probably something like 20 were thin, I don't know the right word, wispy trees. And some of them were pine, they weren't adding much to the area. A lot of them weren't, I don't think were all hardwoods. There was like 5 or 6, I think there was 5, okay? And there were 2 major hardwoods if you're standing at the back of the house and looking into the wetlands that way, there was 2 big trees to the left, sort of out of the way. There was 1 tree to the right, kind of out of the way, thinking about, and then there might have been 2 other trees that were somewhere caught in the middle or somewhere there.
Yep.
The immediate reaction that I had was that maybe we could convince this person on the total value of trees and how badly, we need, the whole environment needs trees. And because they soak up water, they soak up carbon dioxide, everybody knows the problem around with carbon dioxide. And if there's 5 or 6 good trees, it still allows you to plant grass with most of it open, but you would get the benefit of trees that have been around for 100 years. And you might be able to achieve the best of both worlds, where you get to keep the best of the trees and out of all that, and you still get the yard you're looking for. So that's what I think. So that's, I'd like to go around the room and see what people are thinking. Bill?
I agree exactly with what you said, that there's a couple of major, healthy hardwood trees that should certainly remain. I mean, they were there before we were born, I mean, to me, they're longstanding citizens of the community, and they do have a big benefit. So I think they should remain. There's only 2 or 3 of those that have that magnitude, or maybe a couple more.
Oh, I counted 5 healthy trees.
Right.
Of which 3 were way off to the side. So we're not talking like a whole bunch of trees were even right in the middle.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, so I think, that, this way they are looking to plant grass, and I think if you plant the right sun and shade, heat-tolerant grass seed, you could probably get a nice yard with grass and some trees for shade, and it would serve a nice purpose.
Do you think clover could potentially, or I don't even know if that's allowed, I was gonna ask, clover versus grass?
Oh, it's definitely allowed. Something native, that would be a good idea. It's a good idea for, it's tolerant, yes, if it's native.
Whatever it is, given the temperature today in April,
Yes.
honestly, I would suggest no one buys anything unless it's either heat-tolerant or can take extreme heat these
And
days.
that's another benefit of the big trees, is they provide some shade as well for the
Of course.
scorching heat that we are getting and we continue to get in the future. there's currently no demarcation of any kind on this property to show where the do not disturb line begins and to discourage mowing and things like that. So, normally we would ask for, as you just heard previously, some kind of a rock demarcation or a row of shrubs or something.
We actually proposed that we were gonna plant some type of evergreen, native evergreen along the sides and the back. First glance, potentially maybe an arborvitae or something along those lines.
Those are not native trees, right?
No? Because
A lot of people plant them, but they're not native
No,
trees.
they're not native. But
I
they're
need your
beautiful.
help in that department then.
We might be able to propose something, though.
Yeah, why don't you
If
try
she's
to,
just
I mean,
thinking
I
about
think
putting a few
we'll
along
work it
there.
out with the staff to see if there's something that worked for you.
Okay.
That's all I have.
All right, Indra.
I totally agree with you and Bill. Yes, those 5 healthy trees should be there. And then in addition to that, you talk with the staff members, our, administrator, and do accordingly.
Ken?
No, I mean, I agree with what you guys are saying. I mean, even if you're gonna try and plant grass, the trees are gonna help. Like, as if you don't have that, it's gonna kind of burn out or, like, so, I think the additional shade will help you, but not just with the growing what you're trying to accomplish, but also like, basically long-term. And I think to Bill's point about the demarcation, I think that's definitely a good idea as far as like, native tree.
Okay, Ed, anything?
The only ones that were bothering us is the one we were looking at when we were leaving, is that's the closest ones to the house, those evergreens, those cedars, those are coming out.
Yeah, I think so.
Where
The
you
one
wanna
you were
widen the
looking at.
grass, it's right at the
Yes,
edge of your
that one.
grass.
Okay, so that one you would like to keep?
Not a matter of keeping, it could be a suggestion, because I know you want a bigger yard. I had the same thing happen to me in the home in Lexington. I relocated it. I just
Okay.
had them come in, and they just have these big plantings that can just about pick up any size tree.
Is that something that could be relocated, maybe on the other part of our conservation on our
You're trying to figure
property?
that tree out, whether it's
I
red
think it
cedar.
depends on how big it is. Once it gets too big, it's very difficult.
Right.
Okay.
But it might be a good species, that cedar, to put in as a border. Maybe new ones, but I mean, that would be a good species. It's obviously a nice full evergreen, and something like that along that border, the demarcation would be a nice plant.
Especially where it's already a mature tree.
Yeah.
And it's
Well,
not
you- I
that
mean,
big. Yeah.
Well, you can look into it and see
Yeah.
if it can be transplanted.
Yeah, we're
We'll
gonna be
replace
working
the
with CJ at Martell, so he could probably tell me.
He's very good at taking down trees.
Good at his business.
Yeah, we've seen the results of his efforts, so to
His
speak,
handiwork.
unfortunately. Okay, Rob, anything?
Well, I guess, thanks for coming and talking to the commission first about your proposal. But, I think it's something that, it does look like there's a little sort of a stream somewhere ending up in the sort of back of one of the neighbor's yard, I think.
What-
I saw
what
it
is
on
there?
LiDAR. It's like, there's a small sort of, it looks like an indentation of some kind of water
Oh,
that's
it's the headwaters of the Ipswich River.
around
Probably.
9 Alcine maybe, or 7 Alcine. There's something a little back that ends up over there. I think that's what maybe some of
It's,
the issue, yeah, so I think that it looks like the back part of your property, sort of like fairly, like a significant area, but, I think it's something to consider when, it does look like the lot of the vegetation is sort of pretty close to the house as well, and sort of understand that, like, there's different, sort of working with that, with the trees and their proximity and things like if you were thinking about like putting panels on your roof or something and then like sun exposure and all, but then also having like sort of the tree there, but I guess it's something to sort of
We are actually
To
looking,
think about, yeah, sort of,
we actually are gonna have panels put on the roof, but none of the trees in the back affected at all. They're all gonna be in the
Yeah.
front, so it's not gonna have any bearing.
yeah, it's nice, sort of south facing.
Since you answered that question, are you buying or leasing?
Fine.
Buying? Okay.
I did one question about, as Rob pointed out, I'm very happy that you came before us, before you did the cutting. Did you come on your own accord, or did Martel suggest that you contact us? Because of the.
No, I had a couple of people say it may be conservation, so we looked.
Okay, okay. I was just
We
curious.
actually appreciate it, to be
Yeah,
honest
yeah,
with you.
yeah. I was just curious whether it was the.
Not
tree cutting company
everyone
that did it.
does that. They just go ahead and just, they want trees cut, they just cut whatever. Yeah, unfortunately. All right, so are you okay with this plan that we talked about?
Yes. I mean, in one way, I would like a couple more trees, like the bigger ones, but I understand what you're saying about the shade.
Yeah, yeah. They play an enormous role, and not to mention the fact that we've had a number of people who have taken down trees, and then their yard is flooded, and they're not very happy. And the fact that very old, mature trees take up hundreds of gallons of water a day
Yeah,
helps keep the thing dry, so if anything, you'll have that benefit too.
yeah. One of the trees on the side, I don't know if it was the one in the rock wall. That one I'm just concerned about the sturdiness. I don't know how well it's rooted in. I don't know if that's one of the 5 you were speaking
I
of,
think
but
you
it's-
should see if you can come to agreement with them.
Yep.
If they agree with you, then the commission will be fine with it, I think, generally.
Okay, maybe we,
I don't think you want to, I mean, otherwise, the other solution would be to hire an independent arborist to do a full report on all of the trees, and if we can avoid that, that would be to your benefit,
right,
obviously.
okay. So maybe someone comes at the same time as Martel, we mark the trees as you're there.
And we can have a chat about that particular one. Yep, we can do that.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Okay, so can we go over the draft decision?
Yep.
Okay, is there anyone who wants to talk about trees on this property? It's 13 Alcine Lane. Okay. I did send one to Michelle earlier. She caught the fact that I hadn't changed a plan reference, but now it is fixed. There was the plot plan of Alcine Lane with the wetlands line, a proposed tree removal line that Michelle did herself, sketched, and a wetland report prepared by Mary Trudeau. The applicant proposed to remove 26 trees behind the existing house and to plant a line of evergreens along the 20-foot no disturb boundary. The work was located within the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland. The wetlands were flagged on the parcel, and the closest trees to be removed were approximately 20 feet from the BVW. The commission is willing to agree to the project as described, except that what we are suggesting is, we're going to change this a little bit here. Applicants may proceed with the removal of the 26 trees described, excluding, because we knew there would be some sort of a discussion. So we're going to talk about the 5 Healthy, tall, strong, big,
well,
Mature trees.
mature trees. That's the word I was looking for.
healthy, mature. Did you say they were all hardwoods?
I think they are.
Yes.
Maybe John remembers actually
they-
what they were, because I honestly, I didn't have a good look at this site. And I'll add another half sentence in there, in this determination. Removal of any other trees beyond those permitted by this decision will require additional improvement from the commission or conservation administrator, and may require submission of an additional written assessment by a certified arborist that they pose a hazard or are in significant decline. For tree trimmings or removals that are not feasible to do by hand, machinery such as a bucket truck or crane shall be located in the driveway or existing lawn areas. And what they mean is, you just can't let the crane or big machinery go into the trees, or especially into the wetland.
Yeah, they were planning on to.
But they'll do that. The applicant is encouraged to leave snags where feasible for wildlife habitat. So perhaps this one that she's concerned about at the rock wall, maybe we could leave a stump or something.
If it's not good,
We
if
can-
you
we-
think it's compromised.
We can just discuss that when we're out there. No tracking of sediments onto public roadways shall be allowed. That's just completely standard. And then no dumping sediment, debris, lawn clippings into the vegetated wetlands. And we're saying a minimum of some number of native trees should be planted in the no disturb or the BVW. Are we talking about, are we okay with those being the demarcation trees? And what would a good number be there, like 6 or something? I don't, or,
Species
sorry,
in
were you
the
thinking of
spacing.
trees or shrubs?
I think more shrubs.
Well, we definitely
Well,
want
I
to replace
think
trees
if,
with trees.
if that tree is compromised, they should plant two replacement trees for that big tree, if it's compromised.
The one on the rock wall that she's talking about?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, you're talking, there,
If
okay.
you say, if they're gonna take down that huge tree,
Okay, well, they're going to be we were proposing that you might want to require some native plantings in recompense, but the native plantings could be her evergreens. So are we going to, all I'm asking is, are we proposing, does she need a minimum number?
That's the only one you're really related to.
well, the one I'm relating to is if you decide it's compromised or it looks okay, then it's not an issue. But with that tree near the rock wall that's compromised, then we should have 2 hardwood trees replacing it. Planted, 4 feet high, 1.5 inch diameter.
Well,
doesn't go
okay,
anywhere.
but she's proposing an actual line of trees as a demarcation line, or a number of trees to demarcate the 20-foot. No
How many
disturb?
trees,
That's what I'm asking.
how many trees are you proposing?
We don't know. Once it cleared, we would have to see what would be healthy to space-wise.
Depends on the species and the spacing, yeah,
Yeah,
to fill it in to be
well,
solid.
we could
I would say
stipulate a
3, I
minimum.
would say 3 trees and 3 shrubs, how's that? That sounds,
Did you say and? Or did you say or?
Can you just say as deemed appropriate by staff or something in consult?
well, I think, you know,
I just wanted to get a minimum there, just
minimum
because
3
it could
trees
be,
and 3
it could be
shrubs.
more,
There's enough room there. It's
perhaps
long
if we
enough.
say,
So,
okay. We'll talk about that as, you know, the trees shall be native, non-cultivar species and shall be pre-approved by Conservation Department prior to purchase. So we can also chat about size and how many might fit at that point. And then pesticides, herbicides, fungicides should not be used within 100 feet of wetlands. And then, as with the previous person, the commission or me may just be on site to just make sure that the crane is in the wetland, something like that, okay?
Okay, is there any comment from the commission?
No.
Okay. You're all set, right?
Yep.
Okay, all right. Okay, could I have a motion to issue a negative conditional determination for the tree cutting proposed at the property of 13 Alsine Lane under Burlington Bylaw Article 14 in the State Wetlands Protection Act?
So moved.
Second?
Second, Bill.
All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6-0, unanimous. Okay, if you have any questions, obviously, call. I would suggest when you go out, whenever you go out there, it would be good to mark the trees that are being saved, because just in case you have a conversation with Martell and stuff, and he doesn't remember which trees, put a tape around the ones that are being saved.
Okay.
Okay?
Well, in that case, John or I will probably go out and help you with that next week. Or not so much with the taping, but just agreeing which ones Larry
Yes.
meant.
I'll
Okay,
do it at that same time.
yeah, okay.
All right, so I think we're all set. Thank you very much again for coming in before cutting the trees. Appreciate it.
I think most tree companies, like when I've had stuff, they'll actually spray paint the ones that are like, so if you're coming in, you have like a bunch in the back. I know when I had a pool put in, they'll actually come in, and if they have common sense, they will. They'll
Yeah, Hugh
basically-
said he was gonna
Yeah,
mark which
and
ones
that
he was
number of
gonna.
trees,
yeah.
he'll spray paint the 20, and then the other ones he'll leave like
Yeah.
as they are, so that probably would be the best thing to do.
Okay.
Sometimes they get carried away, too.
All right, well, if you're going to plant clover, you're going to have sun and shade. You want to make sure it can do well in sun and shade,
Okay.
you know, whatever species you get,
Okay.
all right? You don't want to plant and have it die on you.
Yes.
Thank you
All
very
right,
much.
thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Have a good night.
Yeah, you too. Thank you for coming in. Okay, there we go. Okay, so we're all set with that one. Okay. All right, so Eileen, I
Yep.
see some guests at the back of the room.
They said they are just interested. I think they're here to learn and observe. Is that correct?
I-
My name is Bruce Foster, I live on Fox Hill Road.
Okay, why don't you come up and, you can come up if you want and say hello.
Both my kids are scouts, and we are introducing them to the civics.
Really?
Excellent.
Okay, well, if you,
So, we're all very interested in conservation. We live across the street from conservation by the Fox Hill School.
so how do you think,
Sit in on our meetings.
so let me ask, who are these two? They are
This is Aaron and Duncan Foster.
Aaron and Duncan? How are we doing so far? Good? We did okay so far?
They're being very polite. They really
Yes,
want to
yes,
say
yes.
it's very boring.
You think this is a good and fair process as you've seen so far? Good. Happy to hear that.
And you think we're nice to the customers?
I like hearing all the trees coming down.
No.
Very nice trees.
Yeah,
We try.
I mean, the problem, of course, is we only have a certain jurisdiction on trees. And when it's within 100 feet of a wetland, we have some say. But mostly, we protect trees that are directly in the wetland, and we protect trees especially 20 feet back from the wetland.
We live right at the end of
Thank you.
Fox Hill and Westwood. So that piece of land right beside our house, the school property, and it was just,
We'll get to this.
it's the Fox Hill project. There's been surveyors up in there surveying the wetlands. So the kids will be watching that as well.
Well, you're welcome to come by anytime. We are the friendliest board in town. I'll probably get in trouble for that.
We like conservation.
All right.
Very good.
Okay, I just wanted to check that you weren't waiting for something specific.
No, we just wanted to check in on how it works.
All right.
I live on Fox Hill also, and I walk by your house sometimes with my dogs. Do you have chickens? Is that the house? Okay.
He has chickens.
Because I hear them when I walk by, so I have them
Now we're
also.
down to 2. We had 4, we had 5, now we're down to 2.
Yeah, they do age out, so
Yeah, they don't lay eggs anymore, they're pets.
they're pets, yes. That's a decision you have to make after they stop laying. What are you gonna do with them, yeah?
That's ours.
Very good.
All right, okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for coming by.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so you don't have to leave just because,
Oh, we're not finished yet, if you want to stay.
Get them up for one more day of school.
Okay.
all right. Thanks for coming by, guys.
Thank you.
Have a great night. Thanks for coming by.
Thank you, bye.
All right, so next we have 5 was continued. 6, we have an extension. We have a permit extension that was voted already.
Yes, you already voted this the last meeting, so this is just the sheets for your signature, please.
Item 7 is the hearing for the district has been continued. And then now we're on number 8. There are some violations to talk about. We have 31 Overlook Road. Okay, it's grading encroachment onto Little Brook Conservation Area. Is there somebody online for that?
Sonny Ferranti, I see him here. I had muted him earlier, and I just asked him to unmute, so he'll probably speak in just a moment.
Yep, I'm here.
Hi there.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, if you want, you can just introduce yourself. Since you're electronic, you can introduce yourself and your connection with the property. And if you want to summarize what's happened, if you want to, otherwise Eileen does it, but it's up to you, Sonny.
Yeah, I'm happy to, that's fine. So basically, we built and sold a new home on that location, tore down the old home. We extended the backyard a bit, and then after the new buyer bought it, who actually also owns the house next door, and he wants to tear that one down and build as well. And he's like, oh, I'd really like to extend the yard as far as we can to get a nice backyard. So we filled in. Basically, coming down the left side, we're not on your property. Coming down the right side, we're not on your property. As those turn the corners, we're not on your property. But in the very back, we just went a bit too far where we are on your property a little bit at the toe of the hill. There is also some washout that happened before we put the hay bales in there. So he'd like to keep the slope. We also got to deal with the fact that we want to keep it in place. So what the owners are willing to pay for, and we're recommending, is to use like a 6-inch minus and actually rip wrap that entire hill that will hold everything in place. And then we'll do the landscaping up top. Once the lawn is in, that'll also help. And then we can clean up the silt that's actually at the bottom there and take that away. So really what we're asking, I guess, is, hey, we know we're on your property. Is it possible to leave that there in place? We'll rip wrap everything. That gives the guy the slope, it gives him his backyard, and then we'll clean everything up. The only other option is that we actually remove off your property, and then he'd have to build a stone wall or something back there to delineate the two properties and hold everything in place.
Okay.
Okay.
Eileen?
Eileen, would you give us any further comment? I thought that was a pretty good
No,
summary.
it was a good summary. I know that this was built, the house was built under a stormwater permit, so I did go out to visit it a number of times. When I saw it at that time, the yard wasn't quite as long as Sonny explained. The owner wanted to extend a bit further, and that's when this sort of I have to say overreach happened. So they are now, part of the slope is now on conservation property, and as you can see, and I'm not sure it's clear enough to you there, some of that fill really isn't very clean. You can see here that there's bricks and things that are visible in there. If I move over to here, this flag does mark the boundary line. So the wall that they put up is approximately the demarcation of where the conservation area begins. I have some concerns. I have some concerns about the trees that are being partially covered by the sediment, and I have concerns about the structure. It's clearly not terribly stable right now, and I do think that you should consider asking him to pull it back, even though that's going to cost a lot. It's going to cost more money because it sets a precedent. They're extending into your property, and it wouldn't be allowed for somebody else. You know, you have to get an easement for somebody else. So I'll leave it to you to discuss further.
All right, and how many feet out into the property is it on the horizontal? Does anybody know?
I actually don't know. Sonny, do you know?
So again, it looks a little bigger than it is because of the settlement. Say, you see that tree kind of on the inside of the hay bale or the hay sock, yep, right there. Everything from that tree back to me, not going up the hill, going down, is just settlement that washed, and we can clean all of that up. So actually onto the property from the stone to that tree at the longest point, and then it gets shorter as you go right and left. I don't know, 10 feet maybe.
Okay, 10 feet out,
At most.
10
At
feet.
most, and at the
Time they pulled it
that
back.
tree's about the
10 feet
longest
would be
point,
It
and
would
then
be
as you
10
go
feet
right and
out,
left, it
in other
shortens
words.
up.
Something like that, yeah.
All right. All right, so there's a number of issues here for the commission to think about and talk about. One is the stuff washing down because
The erosion control was gone, it will continue to wash down. I mean, the stuff that has washed beyond the slope, it already started. And so the question is, do you want them to clean up all the sand and stuff that is washed beyond the slope, down into the gully, if you will? That's the first thing. The second is, if you think there is like 6 trees or something that are gonna die if you kept the slope there, then I would suggest you think about replacement trees somewhere. I don't know where, but I don't think we should let it go just accept that the trees are gonna die, if you're gonna do that. The third thing is, even if you have them go with a riprap, I think, can they clean up a lot of the fill and then place the riprap in place? And in other words, if the fill is dirty, or there's some stuff, not dirty, that's a bad word. If the fill is not all clean, there's some construction debris or whatever, asphalt or whatever's in there. If they could dig some of that out, or a majority of it out, and then place the riprap, it may not preclude using the riprap instead of building a stone wall. So there's all those things, and of course, you could just say, remove it all and 10, and he'll have a cut 10 feet high, 10 feet across, and he'll have to try to build a wall without anything sliding down. So that's what you're gonna talk about. Any other issues before we go?
No, that's,
Just one thing I would say on the trees you talked about, I know that that settlement there at that bottom tree, again, that can be cleaned up. The only trees that are possibly would die because of the fill are on his property, not yours. The ones up the rocks.
Well, there are some trees between your erosion control and the rock wall, isn't there?
Really just that one right there.
Yeah.
That's about, and that's where we'd clean that fill up. It's just hitting the base of it, but I think that's really the only one that's even close.
And to be honest, I don't think that tree was in very good shape. I think we looked at it. It looked like it was split all the way up.
Yeah, it was already
So,
done.
so I might be in error, say, the picture makes it look like this tree's gonna die, but it's on his property.
Yeah, the ones buried up top are on his property. I just wanted to clarify that one point.
Yeah, no, very good point, Sonny. Very good point. Okay, so, Rob, why don't we make use of that?
Oh, yeah, so, I did not visit the site, but I guess from looking at it, I mean, I'm a little concerned that straw wattle might not be enough, like for the time until we can get something in to stabilize that.
That's just freshly put there, and you're right, that's not really enough, but that's temporary. Just consider that temporary.
Okay, yeah, so I mean.
That's a good point, because that's a very steep slope.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like it's somewhat urgent. Well, I mean, I don't know what the timeframe is, but like stabilizing the slope would be somewhat important. Like, so I don't know if like,
Yeah.
you know, silt fence or something, but it depends on the timeline on when, you know, if riprap is going in. But yeah, I think cleaning up the area would be somewhat of a priority, like what it does look like it's covered, I think, like a small area, and I think there is, I think I saw a small, in the conservation area, there was a small like site, like something deciduous swamp or something about, I think it was about
So
70 feet away.
if you look at the next one, this is some of the sediment that just sort of has, like rain has washed it down towards the wetland. So it does need to be stabilized, absolutely right.
Yeah,
yeah, the
so
wetland is-
I think,
it's
yeah,
kind
I
of-
think
it's a little far
thinking
away.
of some type of stabilization to prevent further erosion and sediment flowing into the conservation area. I mean, even about it's, you know, like I don't know, either maybe in addition. If that straw wattle looks like it's not keeping up.
Okay, let's add it to the list. Let's add it to the list, okay?
Yeah.
We'll add it to the list, and then we'll talk at the end what needs to be done.
Okay.
And just to comment on your timeline, it's immediate. We actually need our machines elsewhere. They're sitting there kind of waiting this out. So we're not talking about weeks down the road. We're talking about riprap, like tomorrow's Friday, but like next week.
Okay, yes, yeah, yeah, it does sound like, you know, we've, like, if we did get you know, it does seem like a urgent matter to sort of address at least the sediment thing, but yeah.
Sounds like it's gonna be, a lot of it's gonna be cleaned up next week,
Yeah, okay.
okay? All right, Ed?
Well, I'm still favoring that slope can be definitely reduced. Where those rock line is there, if you would just imagine, look at that rock line and look to the top of the grade of that hillside and just pitch it back. He's got quite a lot of property up there that he's still got to work with. And not have that like a cliff dropping off. It would be a real slope and clean up. It'd be a lot easier to clean up down below, but you would definitely not have that big drop off right at that point.
Okay. Edge, cut back edge.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay, that was your comment. All right, let's go to Kent.
No, I mean, I agree with Ed. I think that's a good idea, just because like it is a really steep piece. I think that would be a good idea, a good recommendation. And then just, yeah, I mean, you already answered the question about the timeline.
It's the part that's this side of the rock wall that's on your property though,
Yeah.
not the top.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Yeah, it looks like it's too steep, the slope, but minimum, I would think like clean up and then stabilize the slope and the riprap.
Yeah, I mean, the question, following up on what you said, Indra, and what Ed said, the question that occurs to me, that if they cut back the edge of the slope a bit, would that allow for any different stabilization that would most likely hold better? I don't know.
I would add the riffraff at that point.
Yeah, I know you, yeah, yeah.
I just wanted to take,
Yeah.
add one.
I wonder what slope is that slope there, I wonder now. Anybody?
What's the slope? I don't know.
It's pretty steep.
Yeah, I don't like, would you say 30%?
I don't know.
Anybody?
Let me ask you this, do you see any problem with stabilizing a slope like that?
Solid riprap can stabilize a steep slope pretty well. I mean, you've seen it in other places like
Wetlands.
Wegmans, very probably. Do you remember a few years ago you approved the sidewalk along
Mall Road,
Mall
that one.
Road? That's got a
Lot of riprap
that's
there.
got a lot of riprap there, and that's pretty steep.
That's a slope, yeah.
That's a very steep slope. And when we met yesterday, when we were out there, we met his contractor. So I've already forgotten his name. I'm sorry, Sonny.
His name's Bill.
Bill. He seemed to be pretty confident that he could
Stabilize.
it at this
All right, okay.
angle.
All right, and anybody, did I call you Indra?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, Bill?
This is, to me, a clear-cut case of encroachment on a neighbor's property. And the fact that it happens to be the public's property instead of an individual owner doesn't make it any less onerous. I don't think they have a right to do it. I think they've overextended the grass part of their yard, but beyond what the property supports, and they should pull it back, including lessening the grass part if that's what's required. The property doesn't support, within its own boundaries, the way it's built, and I don't think that's correct. It should be pulled back and cleaned up and stabilized. That's what I think.
Thank you. All right, so we have, on the table, we have the need for temporary stabilization and erosion control that Rob said. We have the need that others have said about Ed Luturco cutting back on the edge a bit, which might allow it for pulling it back, say, 5 out of the 10 feet. And then we have what Bill is saying, he thinks it should be pulled back the entire 5 feet. Okay, so it strikes me that if the commission decides to go along with what Bill is suggesting, that if they pull back X numbers of feet, and if the slope doesn't sound like it's that great, they could make the minimum acceptable slope, use riprap, and get it off our property. And it would be the minimum compromise of the yard.
Could be.
Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, I mean, to me, as a neighbor and a butter, I would want that restored to its original dimensions and condition on my property, which is our property. So that's what I think should be done. How they're gonna do it is up to them to propose, and whatever they do has to be stable.
Right, right. So I suspect, Sonny, that what I heard being suggested here is that the proper course would be to pull back that slope, and you can make as steep of a slope that you think you can, your contractor can confidently stabilize, and it's probably not even compromising their yard all that much.
Or build a wall. I mean, this.
Or you can simply leave it the way it is and build a wall, but I would suspect there's a large cost difference with that, but I'm not sure.
Up to them.
That would depend if we get the stone, so if somebody's trying to get rid of stone, so.
Right.
You know, obviously have to check with the owner, which way they'd want to go and what they want to pay for, so.
So either way, I think would work for the
Yeah.
commission, it sounds like, unless I see anybody disagreeing.
One other thing is, Sonny, the rock wall itself that's there, how deep is that to the soil that was pile there underneath? How far down to get the native soil under those rocks?
So if you follow the whole property line, there's already a rock wall there. That was there before we did anything. So those rocks you see on top are sitting pretty much on top of the rock wall that was already there.
Okay, that helps.
They buried their own.
That's right.
So what,
End up covering the existing rock wall.
so
So
Eileen, it
Eileen, it
sounds,
sounds to me like what the commission is rapidly converging on is to have them come up with a plan on how they're going to do it with the following parameters. Okay, the first one is that the encroachment should be pulled back so it's not on the property.
Right.
They have a number of ways that we've talked about that they could possibly pursue. It's totally up between Sunny and the owner. And that's the first thing. The second parameter is that the stuff that has washed down into the, is going to continue washing.
needs to be removed. Okay, the stuff that was washing down. The fill, they need to pick out the stuff that is not appropriate for fill as best they can, once they're pulling the stuff. In other words, when they're pulling the stuff back, you want clean fill.
What worries me is the only place we can see that it's not clean is where there's been significant washout. I mean, maybe the rest of it isn't clean either, I don't know.
But they're gonna be moving the whole 10 feet back, they're gonna see a lot of it.
Yeah. But is the fact that the fill is not clean, is that a Board of Health issue?
Well, I'm not sure from what I saw how dirty the fill is. I mean, I don't know.
There were bricks and various things. It looked like
It wasn't massively dirty, I agree.
there was a,
I mean, I didn't see like it half asphalt, for example, I mean, with really bad fill. I didn't see
Right.
that.
I agree.
So I think they should make an attempt to pull the stuff out or replace it with cleaner fill if they have to,
That's fine.
okay? They should come up with a plan of what they're gonna do, submit something in writing on how they're gonna do it. They may wanna use riprap, they may wanna use stones for a wall, and how far back they're gonna, if they're going to pull back the edge of the slope in order to make the minimum acceptable slope, then they should tell us how far back they're pulling back and what the slope is.
Now, from what Sonny said about the timeframe and that his equipment's only gonna be there for a limited time, they don't have time to wait for our next meeting for an answer.
No, they should
So
submit
would
it to the staff.
And let the staff make the decision.
That's why
as
it's
whether
that's why-
sufficient to meet our,
are you okay with that?
yes.
Yeah, that's why I was suggesting the parameters, so
Yeah.
that they've
staff
heard
will
what
We
we,
have those parameters to work
What
with.
we've
Yeah.
all
Work within your
discussed.
timeframe, Sonny.
does that sound reasonable with everyone? Everyone okay with it?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. All right, is there any other parameters we need to put on this? He'll submit a statement on his, basically what they're doing, he'll submit a statement to the commission and, to the staff, and you folks will
Right. And
decide
it-
if that meets what we're
Just,
talking.
just to make it clear that it just, no, I think it was clear, that it also has to include removing the additional sediment, but I think we've got that covered. Okay, yep, got it.
All right, Sonny, maybe it isn't entirely what you've hoped for, but I think you may have expected we'd eventually arrive at this.
Yeah, either way, we gotta work with you guys, and, it's our fault that it went a bit further than we hoped, and honestly, we weren't the only ones dumping fill in there, which was part of the problem. It was a whole company that was in, so, but whatever. I mean, the owners are nice people, they wanna build next door, so,
Right,
we don't wanna be in the bad foot with anybody, we wanna go by the law, and
right.
you gotta clean it up, we'll clean it up, make everybody happy, that's all.
Well, thank you.
Sunny, do you think you'll be able to get something to us, maybe even just a plan between you and the owner by Monday or Tuesday, so you can get to work?
Yeah, I actually probably gonna try and go back there with Billy tomorrow.
Okay.
Get his head wrapped around this now too. He just, we work together. He's worked for me for 20 years, but he's just really excellent at this kind of stuff and knowing what he's doing. So I'm gonna get his head around it tomorrow, meet with the owner, and then try and maybe type you an email or something over the weekend, and we'll get a game plan.
Okay,
I know we got some heavy
Sounds good.
rains coming too, Sunday, Monday, so.
Yeah. Okay, any questions, Sonny? Are we all set?
No, we're good.
All right, you sound easy to work with, Sonny. Thank you.
Yeah, no, like I said, what's right is right. I mean, it's a little bit of work is work. I mean, it's just the right thing to do.
Yeah, appreciate you.
Information on it. Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you for your time.
All right, take care, Sonny.
Thank you, Sunny.
Good night.
You too, good night. Next, we have 58 Beaverbrook, okay? And the commission was out there, we took another look, and this is a case where there was, I don't know, 6 to 8 trees cutting in the wetland, Eileen, something like that?
Something like that.
Something like that, and some were pretty large trees. And of course, it's a shame we didn't get to talk to these folks before they came. Are you folks online for this? Are they?
I don't know who John is. Is John?
Yeah, this is me.
Oh, right, okay.
Yes, I'm 50 Beaverbrook, yes.
Are you from 58 Beaverbrook?
I
Yes.
am.
All right, so the J belongs to the owner apparently on the screen. Okay. All right, good evening.
Hello.
So we were out there and we were looking at it and I guess, we took another look. We took a look at what was cut and where. And we had previously talked about putting in some replacement trees. I mean, the only shame of the whole thing is that will be years before you get back the kind of functions and values that the trees that were cut were actually doing. But we can't do anything about that, obviously. Eileen, want to go to you first and see if you have any further thoughts on it before we get to discussion?
I really would just reiterate with
Larry, that they took down this one, something like a 36-ish inch diameter tree, and then some smaller ones around the sort of close to the wetland, and one that was basically practically right in the wetland. And as you said, they serve a function.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I was getting something from John, and I was wondering if he was interjecting something useful. So I think that they do need to be replaced, and I don't think that replacement with shrubs is enough.
Yeah, I mean, I think what the commission, needs to decide is when it comes to replacing trees in a wetland, the trees, we're not just replacing trees, we're replacing the functions and the values that the trees had. These were big trees. And these trees, they provided food and shelter and nesting habitat and, places for migration and perching habitat. The leaves that would fall, if they were deciduous trees, they provide nutrients and organic matter that helps things grow. And above all, large trees provide shade that are crucial to keeping the wetland, basically the microsystem viable. The shade it makes the wetland viable. Without the shade, especially in the intense heat that we seem to be getting, the wetland will not do very well. And we swear an oath of office to protect the wetland environment according to the law. So it's not just replacing trees versus shrubs, it's maintaining the functions and values of what was there or even enhancing it if that's the case. So I'd like to leave that with everyone. And Kent, you weren't there, but I think you've seen some pictures.
Yeah.
So you have any comments?
I mean, I think that's a good point. I mean, if it's those trees are to support and preserve the wetlands, and if that's what they're taking down, I think there needs to be like a remediation to correct that. And that's one of the disappointing parts, that it's basically even if you do plant stuff, it's still going to be years before it gets back to the point where it's
I may not have been clear as well when I said something, that they were actually proposing just to put up some shrubs as a replacement. So my opinion is that's not enough.
Okay.
Well, I mean, in some circumstances, you can do a combination and things like that. But when the trees came right out of the wetland, usually shrubs are considered insufficient for protecting the wetland. Usually. They help, but it's not as good as what people will say. So,
Did anybody talk to Maureen Herald? Because we had hired Maureen Herald to review everything with the board and put, certain types of, plantations in that would be friendly to the, conservation and everyone for that matter. Did anybody get any information from that?
What we received from Maureen was that you were asking if you could just put shrubs in.
Right, well, she had suggested she would bring that up with the board, so
So what we said was we would bring the board out to see it, to see what they thought.
Okay, I got you, okay.
but go
And
ahead.
if I might just kind of remind everyone that large tree to the left where we cut is in the pictures. I just want to make it clear that the tree was cracked and rotted and it was gonna fall.
Yeah, was that
It was a
a,
big tree.
John, was that a pine tree?
No, that was whatever hardwood, I don't know what that tree is, that you see the stump right there, but I've got some very clear pictures, and I might have shared them with the board, but,
Right.
we had two people look at it and said that needs to be addressed immediately, which is
Yeah.
the whole reason why this all started, just so we're all clear. Out of those trees, 3 were definitely dead. That one right there, that large one, and unfortunately, it is a large tree, I agree. It was very, very tall, and you can see the V in the tree. And again, I've got some great photos of the tree actually splitting and cracking up a little higher from that photo.
Right.
And we had recommendations, and clearly we're told that has to be addressed immediately. If that's kind of in a good windstorm, that's probably gonna split, and it would hit the house, because that thing was towering high.
Yeah,
That's that little process. I just want to be clear that we all understand.
I heard what you said, and if you had come to us and we had looked at a tree that was split partway up or was compromised in some other way, we always agree that it can be taken down. So that would,
We understand that, we talked about that again. This is nothing more than, my wife bought the home, she didn't know, I came in, didn't think nothing of it. I had 2 people say, hey, that's a severe danger.
Okay.
I don't want anything to happen.
We're not questioning that the tree,
Yeah.
we're taking your word for it that that tree was compromised, and it probably was, and we would have obviously agreed to have it taken down, which is the policy of the commission, so we're on the same page.
Yeah, okay, no, well, that's all good, that's all I was trying to clear.
Yeah, no problem. All right, Indra, did I go to you yet?
No, it did not. The same thing is, we have to see the functions of the trees and the values. As you said, you're taking out a big tree and replacing with shrubs, the values are not the same.
Right.
We have to look into that when we are.
Well, the difference in this one is that these trees were taken out of a wetland, okay? And maybe that big tree actually might not have been, but the others, I think, were. So that's fine. Rob, go to you last.
Yeah, so, I think I was there when there was, snow on the ground, but, I mean, I do think that, like, trees in the, the wetland bank would really help, like, stabilize the soil on the back of your yard, more than shrubs, and would provide, shade for the wetlands as well, so I'd sort of recommend going more for trees, I think, rather than shrubs, and I think some of the shrubs were, there was like a blueberry or something in the list, or maybe I don't remember, but, yeah, we're,
Did I send out something from Maureen?
I didn't get anything from Maureen.
it was maybe a while ago? I think I saw something, I think I received a list of
Yeah,
shrubs.
Maureen sent an email suggesting,
Was there blueberry on there?
it was
Sorry, maybe.
it was different kinds. We were looking to increase, by a great amount, with, blueberry bushes, some other type of smaller type bush trees, if you will.
Yeah, I was thinking that, well, some of those, like, certain bushes, if you're planting around a wetland, you want to have ones that don't need
I had forgotten, you're absolutely right, Rob.
maintenance or like a trestle or something, like you just want to sort of let them go. So I think, I think, definitely, like blueberries might be something more better suited for a yard, yard garden, but, leave sort of some of the wetlands to more, I mean, I'm not shy, I'm not exactly, I think winterberry, winterberries, there's a lot of that around,
Well, let's,
Yeah,
we'll
sorry.
talk about the species in a minute.
No, I just.
Yeah, but I do
found
think
the
a
email. I
tree.
think that's what he's
Yeah,
referring to. They
I
did in
think
fact
trees would,
propose 10 wildlife-friendly shrubs, blueberry, winterberry, and red osier dogwood. They're all absolutely lovely shrubs. I
Yeah,
think
but they're
the question is
somewhat-
just, are they enough?
yeah,
Okay, Ed?
trees good.
Well, we know we got an area that is about as wet as you can get. There's a foot of water back there. With these trees gone, you could almost count on seeing an increase in water over time. Minor flooding, if you may. Could we really get to that fence too? I think shrubs is not gonna do it. Tree comes down, trees have to go back up. That's our theory. So one way of saving trees is put something back. And I think damage is done. It's unfortunate, but I'm all for putting additional trees back in that area so that it can continue to absorb the water it needs to absorb and keep that from flooding like you don't want to see.
All right, Bill, anything further?
This is an example of major trees, and I agree its condition was questionable, but, you're cutting a 200-year-old tree that is a vital part of a wetland habitat that is regulated by Conservation Commission and without consulting the Conservation Commission. Martell should definitely have known better than that and should have come to us. You need to bring that up with them. And we will also, and your particular property has stimulated us to have greater discussions about how to prevent something like this in the future, how to reach out to property owners, how to reach out to tree cutting companies, how to reach out to real estate agents who are not telling the buyers what's in the backyard. So, those are the things that, it's helped, we're gonna try to have more outreach as to, to try to prevent something like this from happening. But to echo Ed's point, you definitely need to replace the trees with trees that will eventually offer the same value that the ones that were cut. The flooding is an issue that Ed pointed out, that the big trees are not gonna be relieving that water, but also the shade, the temperature of the water in that wetland is gonna change, that the wetland environment will change, which is exactly what we try to prevent. So, and it's, this wetland it's not the Everglades, it's a tiny little wetland surrounded and challenged by properties on all sides. And our mission is to try to protect it as much as we can, to I'm sure you hear them, the peepers galore in there, and there's all kinds of wildlife in there, that, we need to protect the environment for them, and that's what trees do.
All right, Eileen, do we, if we come up with a decision here, is the work gonna be done under the enforcement order, or would they file some kind of a form with us, like some kind of to permit the work?
That's a good question. I think we could just do it under the enforcement order. If we're just
Well,
talking about
of
replanting.
course, it would be easier for them, okay? If we did it under a request for determination, of course, the follow-up for enforcement, if things were done wrong and things like that, then that's somewhat compromised under that. You can't really easily do enforcement under that. Where if you continue with the enforcement order, it can continue if you have to.
Right.
So I think, I'm not suggesting that this gentleman will do anything wrong. I'm just saying it just gives us no options if things are all messed up with a request for determination.
Okay, so are you suggesting we just stick with the enforcement order?
Stick with the enforcement order, and I think, do they need to submit anything for us? What I would suggest, given what I've heard, is in order to replicate the essential function that those trees provided, that were in the wetland, it provided certainly flood protection, the shade protected the habitat, and essentially provided other functions that trees provide, I think they need to have replacement trees as close as possible to where the existing trees were cut. I think there should be a 2-year follow-up. If the trees don't survive 2 years, they should be replanted, which is standard policy. That's not specific to this particular applicant. And they should have like the same criteria. Should be a minimum of a 1.5 inch, which is a modest size diameter, 6 inches, measured 6 inches above the base root, and then 4 feet high total as the minimum threshold. And I think the species should be species that are known to survive well in a wetland. There's about at least 7, 8, or 9 species, of which obviously red maple and black gum and a few other things do very well in wetlands. Because if they plant something else, then the problem is it won't survive, and we'll have to be asking them to replant. We don't want to do that if possible.
Yeah, because we want to do it right, but, it's not an open checkbook for us either, so we want to do the right thing, but, we understand the whole situation. We just want to make sure we're doing it right, try to do it right the first time, and that's why we hired Maureen, and we hired someone else as well, overseeing everything.
So I think they should submit to the staff a statement that says,
Here's what we plan to do under the enforcement order, and the staff, as always, has the authority to approve a planting plan. And I guess it's a question of how many trees.
So can I just point out that you actually did issue an enforcement order already, which I think actually might cover what you're talking about. It said, let me just see what John is saying. I'm sorry, John was also texting at the same time in case he said something important. No, the existing enforcement order says that a restoration plan shall be filed with the issuing authority for the planting of 6 native trees beyond demarcation fence. Owner shall have trees pre-approved by Conservation Department staff. Trees shall be native species, not cultivars. Location of planting shall be done in consultation with staff as well. I actually think that still fits with what you're saying.
Exactly.
It should be as close to the original locations, though.
Right.
Well,
Clearly has to be trees.
This is
and not
existing.
shrubs.
This is the one we issued
Yeah.
already.
Well,
Sorry, you issued.
I'm saying they need to understand it has to be placed as close to the original trees that were cut.
Okay.
If it's possible.
Yeah, we understand that. I get the notes on that, and then we're gonna actually put these on a drawing, just because we wanna do this. We totally understand the situation. It's unfortunate. I wish we were better prepared or better informed. But here we are. So we hired, like I said, someone who's going to put these on a plan, a property plan, who's got it. He's out of Berwick. I think you all know who he is. So he was waiting for this meeting with Maureen, and then they'll put him on a drawing, and we're gonna submit that drawing to the town.
That sounds like perfect, I think.
Given what we've said and what you just read, Maureen should definitely be able to put together a suitable plan.
Exactly. She just needs to revise what she proposed. Exactly. Yep.
So I will talk to her tomorrow, and the other reason why we're gonna do that is just to clean up the letter of compliance. We feel if we do all this the right way, it's gonna be, the right way for everyone in the commission, so.
Yeah, there's also, weren't there a few things of, the things that should be picked up there when we were out there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, what?
I picked them up. We hired a guy to come in, and we took out all the old, whatever the builder had there, all the concrete, all the steel. It was an old potbelly stove that was all left back there from the builder.
Was that today you did it?
No.
No, we did it, but immediately after you all witnessed that, that has all been removed.
Okay.
The one thing that's back there right now is a piece of plastic in the wetlands, but that came from the 2 houses down. They built a new house where they cut down probably 15 trees, maybe even more, and built a big monster house. That plastic flew off that property and into the wetlands.
Right. I thought we saw some,
It's right there.
yeah, there's a picture on the screen now. There is still some debris left. I don't I don't think it was a lot, but we did see some, so you probably want to
I think
pick up anything that remains.
The issue was actually, all of this grass clippings was being dumped in the
Yes.
wetlands.
Ah, yes.
That was the main issue, just to remind you.
Yes. Okay, Bill, you want to?
So, John, just don't dump
Say
your
anything.
grass clippings.
Yeah, the grass clippings cannot be dumped there, leaves cannot be dumped there, you know, whatever falls in it on its own should stay. But there's clearly a whole, large amount of grass clippings that's sitting in the wet area. At this point, I don't know whether getting that out is something that's recommended or just leave it alone. Rather than disturb it further.
I mean, I think they could rake it out
Just break it up.
without,
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot there, I think,
I think,
you know, there's stuff, I mean, there's, oh, yeah, I mean, I'll do whatever you need me to do, I mean, there's stuff on the other side too, there's stuff floating all around that, even on the other side too, but.
well, the point is
I
that
mean,
this
what
was
is-
dumped
what-
there.
What is there, Eileen? Well, he could sort of rake it out and spread it, and it will just degrade naturally, as long as there's no more stuff being put in.
He could rake it out and spread it not in the wetland.
Right.
That's what you mean? Yes.
Something like that, yeah.
Pull it towards the
Sure.
fence.
Yeah, just spread it around and then call it a day, and please don't add any more grass.
What's the wetland boundary from the fence line, may I ask?
It's on the plan that you have, which I sent you before. It's this line here.
The footage from the fence line, so there's nothing identified by footage, I'm
Footage.
assuming.
I can measure it I can scale it out for you. It's
In the original
probably,
plan that was before the conservation and approved for the building, that fence approximates the 20-foot do not disturb from the wetland.
Okay.
That's why the fence is at that
Just by my
location.
own knowledge, that's
so
all.
nothing should be dumped behind that fence, and the trees that are there should, in the future, be left.
And actually, there shouldn't even be a gate there.
And I think we should ensure that the trees survive the 2 growing seasons, which is standard policy. And,
Understood, yep.
and the staff, under the enforcement order, reserves the right to go and inspect, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah, so you can go and inspect after a year or 2 years and look at it before, and make sure we're still in good shape. So are we all set on this?
Yeah.
Okay, sir, I think we're all set. We have a common understanding. We really do appreciate your cooperation on this. It's unfortunate the way it developed, but
I understand, we understand. We'll,
but we got to know you better through the process.
yes, and we will, I'll get this, I'll draft it up with Maureen. We'll have her make a suggestion for the trees to put in front of everybody, and we'll get them, and we will have them planted.
Yeah, you can go to the staff with that. I don't think you have to come back to the commission. They can look at the list and say, yeah, that's good, or whatever.
Okay, that works.
All right, listen, thank you again very much for cooperating on this matter.
Thank you very much.
All right, you have a good evening.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye, John. Okay, so, next we have 127 Bedford Street, an update. I had asked for the commission, this is a thing where a large number of trees in the backyard were taken down. People on the left of 127, their yard was being flooded. People on the back, they were being flooded, but in part, that was because there was an easement that was, I think, a little blocked up, and they actually had a catch basin on their property, and if the water that was supposed to drain there could go, I think their problem would be more easily resolved if they did it. So, did you take a look at this, Eileen?
I have, I've been out there a few times. I went out maybe a month ago, and I checked with them to see when is this work resuming, because nothing seemed to be happening. So they were waiting for the spring, they were waiting for this, they were waiting for that. So I checked with Hyro, he was going to start work on it last week.
Checked with who?
Oh, sorry, he's the landscaper. Then he was waiting for stone. I asked about when the wall specifically was going to go up, because I figured we'll get him, once the wall goes up, everything else will happen. He said they were waiting for stones to be delivered, which was happening this week, so that they could put the wall up. So I think it's just there've been a lot of delays.
We agreed
including-
because they were more impervious surface at 127, we agreed that they were going to create another 10-foot of wetland to help hold water, right? Does that sound right?
I think that's right.
Okay.
I think he has done the excavation for that, but I do want to make sure Maureen Harold is, at least has a visit to make sure that it looks exactly like it was planned before they start planting in there. So
Has the drainage on the abutting property with that sports court, has that been?
that's a good question. We should check in with those guys too.
Right.
They did, but I'm not sure whether how it's functioning. So
Yeah, so
I'll
you
put that
prob-
on my radar to check with them
Right,
as well.
so you'll get to Maureen and tell them we need a plan before they start planting?
Oh, well, they have a plan. I just want to but since we're going to be talking to her about 58, well, I'll just make sure that she's able to take a visit to make sure it looks like she was expecting.
Okay. And you'll talk to the people behind about their drainage
Yep.
thing.
Or I'll at least
And the real.
review our files to see where we
The real victims
left it.
here are the people on the left of that house. I hope the conditions improve for them.
I mean, you go by and see, well, the last time I drove by there, maybe 2 months ago, 2 to 3 large concrete slabs. Did you see them?
The big blocks that are like 2 feet, those are for the wall, for the retaining wall, and they were there all winter.
That's what I think, that's what I
Right,
thought.
so that's what I've been prodding them to see, when that's going up. Apparently this
Okay,
week,
so that's the wall.
yeah.
All right, so I guess we're all set on this, Eileen?
We are, I'm just gonna keep at them, and then we'll see where we go as spring continues.
I mean, this is the planting season, so.
Right,
it's-
exactly, this should happen now.
Right.
I
All
agree.
right, all right, so next is,
Can I just make one comment? Like, how long has that been going on? Like, how long, like, 'cause, like, I mean, it's like, how?
Years.
It's been like a
They-
year, hasn't it?
Well, they did an NOI back in 2017 or some 2018, 2019, because of the enforcement order, and then the work didn't really happen, and then they came back to you, and then we all agreed on what they were gonna do, and then remember they expanded the front patio, the front driving, the
Did
paving.
something completely different?
So then that's when they came back to you again, and that's when you met them, I think. You may have already met them before that. So yeah, it's been like iteration after iteration. I think we're all getting a bit tired of it now.
Yeah, because didn't the people to the left, weren't they in? I remember, yeah, because they were like,
I attended the hearings.
yeah, because they were like 2 or 3
Quite
here.
upset.
Yeah, because I mean, I guess like how much more rope are you gonna give here? I mean, if it's been like 2 years, like, isn't eventually gonna put a stake in the ground and say
Very
like,
good question.
like eventually, like, you know, you've had like multiple cracks in the apple here. It's like, you know, enough's enough.
Eileen and John have many pieces of rope, though. Sorry.
I guess like, is this the last like run here? Like, if they don't get it right this time, like, is that like fines gonna be?
I would say if we get to the end of May and they haven't got the wall built and the plantings in, you should consider finding them, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we're on administration. We have planning board comments. Do we have anything for the planning board?
No, we don't.
Okay. Subcommittee and staff reports. As far as I know, we have one subcommittee. We have the Resiliency Climate Change Subcommittee. We're looking at trying to see if, with some of the resources we have, if we can get some ideas on how to eventually either modify the regulations or modify the bylaws, anticipating more severe rainstorms, more severe heat, and things of that nature. And the question is, can we impose any conditions on resource areas and buffer zones that help us better prepare for that?
What's the next one, Larry? I know I missed the first one.
I think it's the 18th. What day is that?
Tuesday.
Next Tuesday at 4?
Is that in the basement?
4,
Next-
4:30?
Yeah,
Let me
it
check
is.
my calendar, sorry.
We were gonna try to get it somewhere else, because we had trouble with
We were
communications.
gonna do it here, but I'm not sure Emily's gonna be able to make it, so it might be moot.
Okay,
That's-
okay.
yeah,
Yep.
We said 4:30 on the 18th.
Right at quitting time, great.
John is saying, don't forget getting decisions signed. what does he think I've been doing all this time, huh?
Got another one here.
Thank you, John. Yes, we did that.
Speaking of the climate change, you
John,
guys,
John, it's always nice to hear you, even if it's only a text.
But I think he was probably just making sure that that I would remind anybody who needs.
There he is.
There he is.
Thank you, John. Everything has been signed, and we have
He didn't even
lots
know
and
the last
lots of
one.
commissioners. Everybody's here in person.
Hi, how you doing, John?
good.
Glad to hear it.
Enjoying the meeting? I'm sure you are.
I was saying, anybody see what happened in Fort Lauderdale?
You own the
25
rain.
inches of rain
25 inches of rain.
in 1 day.
Oh, my God.
I got a good friend down there. He said my car actually moved out of the driveway without me in it.
A 1 in 1,000-year storm. It's incredible. It's incredible.
I just can't imagine 25 inches of rain.
Okay, well, wait, John, do you have any, since you're online visually, do you have anything you want to say about the subcommittee at all for climate change?
So it is in that room where you are right now, and it is going to be on WebEx as well.
We'll be here. All right, good. It's going to be right here?
Yes.
Okay. All right, that's good. All right, thank you. Next is staff reports or updates. Is there anything else?
I don't think so. I think we all want to go home.
Next is other business. Bill?
Yeah, I got two things I wanted to bring up. One is I'm on the advisory group for the Mall Road Middlesex Turnpike Initiative, which they're now calling the Burlington 128 Rezoning Initiative. There was a meeting this week, and John was there also. It was an interesting group of people comprised of property holders, developers, town officials, to discuss the vision that we see for what they're calling a 50-year plan for Burlington, and particularly in the area of the Burlington Mall parking lot and, that whole general 128 area. It was an interesting meeting. The way they decided to do it this time was they presented 3 specific sites, and they were very different from each other, and they split into subgroups, and we all chatted about what were the strengths and weaknesses of that area, talking about traffic circulation and bicycles and pedestrians, building design, just what you would like to see there, how you could see would work better, what doesn't work well now. The groups that we discussed were the AMC Theater site, the Wayside Office Park, which is down where Nuance and that area, and then the Staples retail area, which we've got some serious water problems. So it was an interesting, and then they shared their ideas, and there's contractors who we've hired to do this whole plan, and with the goal of coming up with zoning. How can we zone? Right now, there's several different zoned areas in that area. What the general consensus is, this thing called form-based zoning is what is desired, where the town says this zone must have buildings of a certain size, buildings of a certain setback, certain connectivity, but then the developers are free to do what they want within that framework, within that form that's been established. And they may decide to put in a lab space. They may decide to put in residential. It would be more, it would be less restrictive on what they can do and how they can adapt. And as it was pointed out to some, like Bob Buckley pointed out, you have to be flexible as a property owner and developer. He said, if you told me 4 years ago that all the office space would be no longer wanted, I would have thought you were crazy. And yet here we are today. So, to be able to adapt is a very important part of the plan. I was assigned to the Wayside Office Park, and the Piedmont Group owners were there. And they were saying some interesting stuff. We talked about the massive parking lot that's there that's hardly ever used. And they said their contract with each tenant requires that tenant to have X number of parking spaces. And it can't be shared with the next one. The next one has his own X number of parking spaces. So, and those contracts that they've got are signed for 10 or more years already. So, that's good for them, even though the office is never 50% full anymore. You know, with people there, they've got tenants who are long-term. But, you know, how to work within all of that is something that is what they're trying to come up with for this grand plan, with the goal of coming up with a plan to town meeting in, I believe, the January next year town meeting to get the zoning approved, to describe in some general form what we want to see in that area. So it was an interesting meeting. And like I say, John was at a different table from me and at a different property. I think he was in the AMC Theater Group. Did you find it useful, John?
I did find it useful, but I was on the Wayside Office Park.
Okay, so we're two tables discussing the same thing, okay. Because there were 4 tables and only 3 properties, so, okay. But it was an interesting mix of people.
Are there any questions from the commission for Bill on this particular initiative?
Certainly, I'll take any input you have, I mean, either now or privately or whatever, about if you have visions of what, like, you think Burlington should look like, or connectivity, or green space and stuff like that. That's, you know, one of the reasons I'm on that committee is to try to bring that viewpoint. So, you know, let me know.
Anybody? Well, I have something for you.
Yeah.
How does form-based zoning apply to a site where the developer has the initiative to then propose something? How can you expect the developer to develop a mode of a transportation mode like a bicycle path that goes from property to property, in and out of their form-based zoning, outside of it, to the next one, then you hit another form-based zoning? How does a developer relate to that and have a bicycle path? I mean, I just don't see how it works unless there's a master plan for a bicycle network, and then they work within those confines.
Well, that's what we're trying to establish. You know, what are the, how would this work? I mean, just to say that the general form for zoning in this massive area of our downtown, or whatever you want to call it, must have bicycle connectivity, is that sufficient to say?
Yeah, but my point, I guess the point I'm making is that I don't see how that could be sufficient when it really needs to, their piece of it needs to relate to a network plan. Otherwise, what they propose doesn't even make sense. You can't expect each developer in an area.
To mesh with the next one.
Right, to mesh with the next one, because they're just gonna propose, well, across our property, we could have a path that goes from here to here, but that may not be what is part of the plan. Am I making any sense?
Oh, definitely, definitely. And
So anyways, that's my 2 cents.
Yep, no, that's an important thing that I'll try to keep, you know, bring into the group. So anyways, it was an interesting event. And I had one more item, which is out of the blue here, I was just thinking, and it may be totally unworkable. You know, we have an issue of trying to keep our commission seats full. Is it possible, feasible, even practical, that John or Eileen could be a voting member? I mean, I looked at the state regulations, and the state regulations, where is it here?
You have to be a resident.
You do not. Not under the state regulations, I think it's here. Damn it, I
You don't
lost
have to
it.
be a resident of the town?
That is a local regulation. The state does not have any residency requirements for conservation members, Conservation Commission members. Now, if that's a local thing only, you could ask for a waiver. You could ask for a, you know, you had the select board to say you have the ability to have one of them or both of them be voting members. It's certainly, obviously you guys are qualified, you're at every meeting, you know the material and the issues. Why not? If it were feasible. What do you think? Think about it.
Well,
I don't need you to resolve that now, but, I mean, I may ask Amy if that's something that's even feasible.
Yeah, and I think we might check with MACC to see that, because there's actually quite a lot of towns, quite a number of towns who have immense difficulty getting a quorum month to month. And, you know, I can't think, wouldn't they have done that by now if it was?
Well, not everybody has paid staff either, you know, so,
Well, let us look into it as well. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's good. That I've learned that there is at least one community in Massachusetts that the conservation commissioners are elected officials.
Is there a possible conflict of interest? And I'm not sure how this would work, but let's say Eileen is on the commission, and she makes certain decisions that affect her role as an assistant administrator relative to the amount of work and what she's doing. Is that a conflict?
I have a
I don't
concern
see
that
it.
it might be something like that too. I wouldn't want to be at least even seen to, you know,
But your
Just for
decisions
to
are only
look at.
based on enforcing the Wetland Protection Act and stormwater
No,
control.
no, her work is in a large part based on the discussions that we come to an agreement in.
yeah.
And so she'd be voting on that agreement.
I think you need to be. I mean, this is kind of off on a tangent here, but in Everett, they had the mayor actually put himself on the school committee, and that's. I mean, I don't know. I think you probably would need to determine if it's something
Yeah,
that you
it's
can.
outside the box.
It's
but
outside the
it
bo-
might
yeah.
be,
Might be
maybe
something,
it's-
but yeah.
Maybe it's allowable.
Yeah,
Now,
it's
whether you
allowable.
want to do it or not is another whole question.
I mean,
But-
are you proposing
All
a
in favor?
motion to vote
All in
John in now?
favor?
We can vote John in. John, would that work for you? We'll vote you in.
Anyways, I just thought of that, and I thought it was something that to contemplate, so.
That's an interesting thought.
Yeah.
You know, they're always here, and they certainly are qualified to vote if they wanted to.
Yeah.
If they could. So, I just thought
All
I'd throw
right.
that out there.
Are we,
Or even as a alternate that can vote in lieu of a not present member, something like that, to establish a quorum.
Do we have time for any more other business?
we do if you want, if you have.
I know I shouldn't bring it up at this,
Other
this
fun-
hour.
other fun
But
business.
I'm not sure I had already raised this with you guys. I feel like I didn't. But John and I are working on an application, a grant application for another municipal vulnerability MVP, municipal program, grant application to build a sustainability plan for the town. So the idea would be that we would have a core team who would be staff, but ideally it would also be some members of the public who are interested. And we would work, we're thinking at the moment that it's a plan that would have a number of core areas like mobility, buildings, energy. So it would kind of partially build off the green communities plan, energy plan that we already have. And but it would be a bit larger and more impactful. It would end up giving us actions or goals at least towards things like.
What would be the work product at the end of
The
it?
work product would be like a roadmap towards a more sort of resilient or sustainable kind of development in town for the town.
For meeting renewable energy goals?
Not just that.
Meeting climate change goals?
Yes, exactly. But it wouldn't just be a climate action plan. What we were hoping for is something actually broader than that, and it could even be like one of our goals could end up being to increase our tree canopy. So while it's related, it's not directly just like the energy portion of a climate action plan. So anyway, I don't want to talk to. I mean, I'm happy to talk as much as you want about it, but we would like your support. So maybe you can ask me any questions you like, even offline.
Is there a proposal, is there a proposal document that says what's required or what this encompasses?
We are working on that right now with a consultant from BSC. So remember last year? or
No,
2
no,
years-
I guess what I'm asking for, is there a request for proposal that you could send out to the commission?
Oh, the RFP for the grant?
Yes.
Well, I could send that out, yes, but it's not, yeah, I could. It's not
I
gonna
think
give
it would
you
be
what.
interesting to see, it may trigger some thoughts if we were able to scan it and take a look at it.
Well, I think you're talking about the request for applications from the MVP program itself, right? But we're.
I'm not sure what I'm talking about.
We are working on, so we don't yet fully have a scope. So as soon as we have a scope, we'll, and John and I work with it, we'll send that to you. I think maybe that's what you want?
I'm not sure.
Like a sort of more fleshed out
I have.
description than I just gave you.
All I know is that when you write a grant proposal, there's usually a request for proposal that goes out.
Yep.
It says, we would entertain proposals for X, Y, Z that could include A, B, C, and D.
Yep.
And make sure if you make a proposal, it has A, B, C, D, and E. So that was what I was thinking.
Okay, I can definitely send you that.
Okay. Okay. All right. Anything further?
Just one thing on Bill's point, I can't think of the lady's name, but I interacted with her a couple times, just getting elected, and a couple other, the lady from the Buzz. Maybe it might be helpful to do an interview as like a concert, maybe somebody could do like as a.
Did she do that? Yeah, I think she was gonna do one last year. Did she interview one of you last year?
Yeah, but directed towards like,
Interview
as
you,
a,
right?
as a recruiting thing of like, what's the
I
benefit?
think that's a great idea.
That's a good idea. She's good. She wrote,
Good Larry.
yeah,
She did interview me, and
Yeah.
that interview bombed, when nobody looked at it.
no. But it might be something to do as a recruitment tool to get somebody.
No, it was like a podcast or something,
Yeah.
I
Or
think.
have her announce that there's a vacancy.
Yeah,
and-
and then have her
Yeah.
do like an interview, like with the, geared towards, I mean,
I still think a high school senior who's involved in the environmental club or something could be a commissioner, you know?
yep.
You know who has a program like
Then
that?
they go away to college in a year and then.
We got him for a year.
In a tree.
And it's
I
good
can
education.
reach out to her if you want. I can reach out to her. I did when I for Shashim. I actually did an interview with her, and then another committee she actually did that we needed a scholar. She actually wrote, so it gets out to a lot of people.
Yes, it does.
So I can reach out to her.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Great, good suggestion.
All right, the next meeting is April 27th, 2023. The first meeting in May is May 11th, 2023. Is there anything else? I'd entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting of the Burlington Conservation Commission. Second?
Second.
All in favor? Granted, 600, unanimous. Have a good evening, everyone. John?